I've published 476 videos to YouTube. And now here are the 3 curveball lessons that you can expect on YouTube that no one else is really talking about. Now these are some of the weirder quirks that I've experienced working on 2 in-house channels over a period of about 5 years, and now running a YouTube agency. So in this video, I want to break down these learnings to give you a better understanding of what you can expect if you're thinking of publishing regularly and for the longer term on YouTube. When you're starting out, you may be preoccupied with scripting or figuring out your camera setup, and all of these things are important to get right, but there are elements to success on YouTube that often come as a surprise to most brands or creators. Now looking back, these 3 lessons I'm about to cover feel kind of obvious to me, but I wish someone had shared this advice all those years ago. So if you're looking to scale your YouTube channel and want to learn something quickly from my own meandering experience, then stick around. Okay, so first up, when I started out, I assumed that most of my efforts were going to generate impact. But what I've realized is that 80% of the impact will come from less than 20% of the efforts. But what do I mean by that? Looking back at all these hundreds of videos I've released, I can probably count on 2 hands the number of videos across each channel that had a significant impact on the channel as a whole. For every video that strikes YouTube Gold, you're more likely to put out multiple videos that underperform or, quite frankly, are duds. The problem is though, when you're starting out, you have no real way of knowing in advance which videos are going to strike a chord with viewers or succeed in the YouTube algorithm. So people that guarantee success on YouTube, or virality, or rapid growth on the platform, they're usually just trying to sell you something. And on this topic, don't just take my word for it. YouTube expert and marketing legend Finn McKenty said pretty much the exact same thing in a recent conversation with us.
I would never guarantee anything. If there's anyone in the world that can guarantee YouTube views, then I would like to meet that person. But what I can do is say that getting 100,000 views a month is not that hard. That's like 5 videos a month that are doing around 20,000 views each. And that's not even considering stuff in your catalog.
So why is it important that you understand this YouTube fundamental? For one, it means you shouldn't overthink getting started. The way I see it, having learned this the hard way, you can either spend about 1,000 hours learning about the intricacies of YouTube, trying to predict success and game the algorithm, taking courses or attending trainings, or you can spend that 1,000 hours actually doing, creating content. Now, I always advocate for the latter. Why? Because you'll discover the curveballs, the runaway successes, the outliers you weren't really expecting. This also means you'll get to better understand what success means for your channel, and it will give you a huge amount of data and insight to work with too. As my in-house channel started growing, I was impressed, but also a little bit surprised by how much value and impact a small handful of videos had on the businesses I worked for. Yes, they were supported by a wider ecosystem of content that had been built out and established, and of course, not all the results are directly linked to numbers or sales. For example, a lot of it is about building trust and goodwill and being able to show up consistently for your audience. But when I worked at Career Foundry, for example, about 15 of the key video titles were responsible for about 80% of the channel growth and the bulk of leads and sales that were generated. There were also a lot of outlier successes and shock surprises. For example, some shorts that were cut from a grainy webinar that went on to gain over 170,000 views. Ultimately, once you have all this data from publishing on YouTube, you can better understand the dynamics of what made those videos stand out. Was there a particularly good title or thumbnail? Was the topic especially interesting to viewers? You can work to replicate those successes while learning from mistakes. So the third reason I think it's important for you to understand this 80-20 rule is so you don't get discouraged if you don't immediately experience success. Or you feel like you're making progress but still putting out videos that don't perform quite as well as you'd hoped. If you're publishing regularly and getting better week in, week out, you'll start seeing progress, even if it's not strictly linear. And that brings me on to lesson 2, while on the topic of consistency. Content production fatigue is very real. At AJ & Smart, I was producing content on a weekly basis, wearing a lot of different hats. Researcher, analyst, videographer, editor, thumbnail designer, director, channel manager, community manager, you get the point. It was a lot. Now, depending on the maturity of your company and your channel, it's likely only you or a very small number of people will be working on it. With weekly releases comes this dreaded content fatigue. This is something that many top creators experience after years of publishing high-octane content, week in, week out, for a hugely expectant audience. But it can also impact creators and brands who are just starting out, who are putting in the work, but not yet reaping the rewards. Drive and motivation can start to sour, and even the fun creative elements seem much more like chores. As I'm sure you might know by now, there's a lot of moving parts to YouTube. Scripting, filming, editing, feedback rounds, titles, thumbnails, you get the picture. Afford your channel and your team some grace. Allow for natural breakpoints in your content cycles. Typically every 3 or 4 months is a good cadence and can align with quarterly goal setting sessions, for example, too. You get to look at what's working, what's not working, and more importantly, how you want to proceed. And if you've built in some buffer by filming and editing a video backlog, it means you won't necessarily even need to take a break from the publishing. But even if it does mean taking a small break, the value added can be well worth it in the long run. Simply assuming you'll have the headspace or resourcing to publish content uninterrupted week in, week out for years simply isn't realistic or particularly healthy. Please don't wait for content fatigue to turn into content burnout. Now finally, my last surprising takeaway that I learned from years on YouTube is you should always be refining. This means refining your content and your plan as you go. Something I see happening fairly frequently, particularly with founder-led brands on YouTube, is that they develop this kind of attitude of, it's not us, it's them, when their YouTube channel is proving unsuccessful. If nobody is watching or engaging with your content, it's because something is wrong. And maybe to be frank, it's because you're producing bad content. Regardless of the reason, the worst thing you could do in this situation is continue doing more of the same, especially given the resourcing that YouTube can require to start to gain traction. Don't be afraid to course correct as you go. Give your team the autonomy to experiment and iterate. And this ties back to my first lesson, since one of those experiments might just yield a 10x average for your channel in a specific metric. Take some downtime to develop growth hack style experiments, assigning ownership to them and rolling them out when you update your content targets. Develop a hypothesis and then test this out over a set time frame. When it comes to your channel's big hitters and outliers, you can recreate these successes, for example by updating the format of the video and publishing a sequel. One of our most successful videos at AJ and Smart was called Get Started in UX Design. This was a hugely popular video at the time. And a year later, we decided to remake and refresh this video, building on this success. The follow-up video was not only a channel top performer, but went on to ring-fence the search term UX design for years to come on both Google and YouTube. But this lesson doesn't just apply to new videos. You can also refine and tweak your older videos. For example, when it comes to those high-performing videos, your channel's best 20%, you should be doubling down on those successes. Sometimes this really is just as simple as updating the title or thumbnail. If your video on getting started on X topic in 2025 performs well, consider updating the year in the title every time the year changes. It sounds a little bit hacky, but this really does work, and it conforms to this kind of recency bias we experience as viewers on the platform. Small tweaks like this can lead to a resurgence in views if the video then finds a new audience. Updating links and the video descriptions ensure the video is still relevant and useful as a resource, even years after publishing. Engaging with comments on old videos can also lead to more engagement. And when a video underperformed, don't just give up and move on to the next video. See if a new thumbnail or more engaging title can turn things around. So to summarize some of my more unexpected lessons from working on YouTube so far, number 1, 80% of success can come from 20% of your efforts. Number 2, YouTube fatigue is real, but it can be mitigated with careful planning. And number 3, continuously refine your approach for both future and past content. That's the key to success. Taking this knowledge and combining these 3 learnings will enable a culture of data-led decisions and the autonomy to stop and recalibrate when things aren't working with this built-in experimentation in your YouTube efforts. Build this into your strategy with YouTube. And if you've enjoyed this video, help us out by subscribing and let me know in the comments what kind of curveballs you've experienced working on YouTube. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.